These guys are not dinking and dunking. They're not taking the checkdowns. They're making plays and really helping their offense score points.
In my head, I can hear John Madden's voice, and he's giving a boom or a pow or, one of those adjectives.
But, Mike, I'm going to kick it to you on the kickoff returner. Who's our kickoff returner? What are we going to do about this?
Well, we don't have one.
Welcome to a special episode of Coach. I'm Matt Patricia. We have Coach Bill Belichick and Michael Lombardi, and it's week 10. We're at the midpoint season. We're going to continue with our midseason All-Belichick team. Coach, we're going to have a chance to look at some young players this week, some rookies, some second-year players, but really a midseason All-Belichick team inspired by John Madden. As a guy watching football growing up with John Madden, at that time doing the broadcasting, you just fell in love with his personality. You felt he was larger than life. You loved the noises. He would talk about the booms and the bangs and the offensive linemen. Really brought a lot of attention to the hogs up front, the offense, defensive line, which as a young guy watching football who played those positions, no one really talked about him a lot. So really, I think very influential person, for me to fall in love with the game. He was so big for our game.
Yeah, having worked for the Raiders and listening to the Autumn Wind and knowing what John meant to that franchise, there's certain people that have made an impact on our game that have advanced it to where it is today. Howard Cosell on Monday Night Football, Brent Musburger on the NFL Today. But where John's so unique is his ability to impact the game on the field as a coach, and then he went up into the box and really influenced it. So there's no direction you look where you can't find John Madden somewhere in the NFL.
Yeah, I had a great experience with John Madden when we picked the All-100 team. And John and I worked together on the kind of the old-timers, pre-1950. And so I have a real good feel for what John thought about football players, what he looked for, what he admired, and what he saw in the game. It was a truly an honor. It was a great experience to work with John. He had so much, not just knowledge, but insight and perspective on the game. And I thought that's what he did, similar to you. You grew up watching him on TV, and he was just fun to listen to and fun to watch, regardless of what the game was or wasn't. He made the game fun to listen to. It popularized the sport. Is tremendous.
I mean, one thing about the sport that we all love here, the passion that he showed for it can become something that's contagious.
And that's part of our team is guys that love football, that are passionate, that play hard, practice hard, and just love football. The bus was a big deal.
Yeah.
When John came to interview the team before the game, and they would come into the locker room and talk to guys, but then if you got an invitation to go out and talk to John on the bus, that was really pretty special because not everybody did that, and he would come in and make his rounds, but that was really special. That was quite a bus.
He made so many people fall in love with the game of football, but also the video games. Just his name is synonymous with, just young people now that never even saw him do any of that, but they know his name because of that. And then the bus is a great part of history.
We owe a debt of gratitude, too, to John Robinson, the former Rand coach, who really enticed John Madden to come up with this team. And so it's been 40 years. Can you imagine? 40 years the All-Madden team started in 1984. And to have you continue it, I think, is tremendous because it does honor those who love the game.
Yeah. I look forward to it. Let's get to it.
Yeah, we're going to dive in here, and we're going to start with the offense again.
Steps up, fires to the back of the end zone. Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown. Brian Thomas Jr. has a score.
Fires one left corner of the end zone. Neighbors makes a diving catch. Touchdown.
Minshew off his back foot. Bowers jump up. Touchdown Raiders.
Daniels backing up. He's just going to have to let one fly.
Touchdown!
Well, let's get started. We're going to start on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to dive right into the quarterback position. I think got a lot of young, great players coming in the league at the quarterback position, guys that are rookies this year, second-year players. We talked about a couple names here with Williams from Chicago and Bo Nix at Denver, but really narrowed it down to two guys that we think rose above everybody else, certainly from the rookie class. We want to talk Jaden Daniels. We're going to start with him. But really, second-year player, C.J. Stroud, kind of rose above everybody. He's got a year on these young quarterbacks, but a lot of good talent coming in the league at this position.
Yeah, both played a lot of college football. Stroud at Ohio State. C.J. Was really good, was productive there. And, of course, Jaden Daniels starts at Arizona State, was productive there as a freshman, sophomore, transfers to LSU and took the world by storm down there, won the Heisman. So these guys came in the NFL, Bill, ready to play.
Yeah, and they've done a good job. I think C.J. Stroud in particular, with the bullseye on his back the second year, everybody's had a year to look at this guy and game plan for him and everything. He's really stepped up, given not only a high level of play, but good leadership to the Texans. And you can see the offense now being built around him, which is a great thing. Coach Nick Caserio has done down there. He's put together a good group of players to go with the young quarterback, and they're very productive.
And both of them can throw it down the field, Matt. Both of them are really accurate on the third level. They make explosive plays. Stroud has missed Nico Collins over the last 4 weeks without his presence, but still, these guys are not dinking and dunking. They're not taking the checkdowns. They're making plays and really helping their offense score points.
They are acting like experienced quarterbacks in this league, like they've been in it for a long time. And look, we're not taking anything away from Williams or Bo Nix. We had great conversation about including them in the group. But these two guys are just risen above everybody else. And I think, with C.J. Stroud, he's just taking care of the football. He has the lowest INT rate in NFL history right now over a 2-year span. So, putting him out there first in the quarterback position, I think that's where we want to be. And Jaden Daniels, he's done a phenomenal job too. He's taking care of the ball. Both of these quarterbacks, really phenomenal players. C.J. Stroud would be our guy. He'll start for us when we go out with that first unit, but both have great command of the offense.
And both guys win, right, Bill? I mean, that's the job of the quarterback, is to win games. And both these guys have their teams in first place in their division. So that's really important.
Yeah, one of the biggest things is they just haven't turned the ball over. Jaden Daniels hasn't turned the ball over. CJ hasn't turned the ball over. You're right. It gives your team a chance to win and still create those explosive plays. Both guys are good if you don't contain them. If the pass rush runs by them, these guys can gain a lot of yards with their legs. So big threats, smart football players, don't turn the ball over, playing a lot of winning football. Two good quarterbacks. Stroud's our guy, but Daniels is on his tail.
He is. Great guys to start with, but we're going to also then move into the running back position and talk about who's going to be next to him in the backfield. Again, a lot of good players at the running back position, but two guys that we just, absolutely love, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, another player that you can give the ball to. And I think both of these guys can take over the game. A little bit different. Bijan, all 3 downs, catch the ball, dynamic in space. But Jahmyr Gibbs, this guy is running like he's, hair on fire. He's kind of that quintessential beat you up running back and explosive player. Two guys that really would be great back there.
And they impact all 3 downs. Bijan really is good in the passing game, and Gibbs can make plays in the passing game, plus he can run with power inside. I mean, it just makes these offenses, Atlanta, which has been very good with Kirk Cousins, and of course Detroit, sharing the role with David Montgomery. It's a little bit of the power of Montgomery and then the spice of Gibbs, but then Gibbs still runs with power too, Bill, so it's a perfect complement.
Yeah, the old thunder and lightning.
Yeah, really.
I think Gibbs is much more than the third down back. He's better than that, and he's so explosive. He's a home run hitter. So you've got to really be careful whenever he touches the ball. It could be all over in one play. But Robinson's just been so consistent, such a powerful guy with speed and explosiveness. A little bit of a younger Saquon Barkley, if you will, but this guy's really been productive, and he'll be a hard guy to deal with in years to come.
Yeah, that's a great point, because when Barkley came in the league, he struggled in pass protection, right? It was hard to keep him on the field on third down because he was and he got much better at that. And I think the same thing with Bijan, Matt. I think he's really improved his pass protection from his rookie year to where he is right now.
Both guys, you can see the progression of understanding, hey, we've got to know Mike points, read Mike points. We know all the things that go into the protection systems, and that can be complicated. The defenses, they're going to give you a bunch of different looks. One of the most impressive things with both of these guys is their yards after contact. Gibbs, he's playing behind a really good offensive line right now. So he's, even before contact, right, they're going to get 3 yards. And then he gets almost 3.5 yards after contact. Robinson, it's under 2 yards before he gets hit first, and then he's still getting another 3 yards after that. So both of these guys, they're going to get hit, or they might have a defense might think they have a chance at them. They're still getting 3 to 4 yards after they get that first contact, and that just keeps the offense going forward, makes it manageable, and keeps it moving in the right direction.
Plus, both of them you keep on the field on short yardage, Bill. I mean, you don't have to substitute them out like, we need a big power back. No, you keep them out there on 3rd and 1, and now you have to defend the width of the field along with the short yardage plays.
Yeah. Two really good players. Very, very different, but very good. They can impact the game, like you said, on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down, in 2 minutes on the goal line, short yardage. They're really very explosive players that defense has to game plan for. You got to talk about these guys when you're game planning.
that's where it starts, right? Game plan. We've got the quarterback position. You're going to have a problem there if you're trying to game plan the quarterback. We've got running backs that can go into the backfield, but certainly we don't want to let the defense just load the box. We can't let them get down in there. So, Michael, we got to talk about some skill guys here.
Yeah.
How are we going to spread the field?
Well, there are a lot of skill guys. We know the NFL's been obsessed with drafting wide receivers in the first round, and we have a bunch of really good players, starting off with Puka Nacua, who was a fifth-round pick, went to the University of Washington, transferred to BYU. He's big, he's physical. I mean, John Madden would love this guy because he blocks. He's so tough. I mean, they actually have like another tight end blocking when he's on the field. Their run game goes way up when Puka's on because he's able to block, but he still can get open on the outside. Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Can you imagine how good Brian Kelly had it at LSU with Jaden Daniels? I mean, we should have Brian Kelly as the coach of the All-Belichick team here because we've got these guys here. Neighbors is sensational. Brian Thomas has really taken Jacksonville by storm. I think he's been outstanding in terms of his ability to make plays and get open, even though, you know, Christian Kirk got injured. So I think, to me, that's been an awesome time. I think the other kid, Jaden Reed, has been really good for Green Bay. I think playing in the slot, we wanted to have a slot receiver. I think that's really important. We had Rashid Rice there, but he got injured, and so we didn't put him on the team. He certainly would qualify for our team. But Reed is dynamic. He block in the slot, which is important, and he's also can separate with his quickness.
Yeah, it's a pretty good group right there. You know, Rice was having a great year, and he added so much to the Kansas City offense. That was a tough loss, you know, that they suffered with him. But Neighbors really has the ability to play all the spots. You know, Reed's primarily inside, and Nacua and Thomas are, you know, more on the perimeter. But it's a pretty good group, and a mixture of first-year and second-year guys, rookies and second-year players. So good depth there, good talent, and a lot of options for the quarterback. Love how competitive these players are, especially Neighbors. He gets the ball a lot. He gets hit a lot, but he bounces right up, fights for yardage. Really like his competitiveness.
Neighbors a guy that they can put in motion, give the defense a lot of stress. You know, he's going to be able to do a lot of that jet motion or jet sweep and kind of get the ball maybe not downfield, but turn it into an explosive play. And then really Reed, you know, this guy is 20 yards, over 20 yards an average catch from the slot position. So explosive plays, moving the ball downfield. And we know we got the quarterback that can get the ball to him downfield.
Yeah, one of the criteria for the receiver position, can they win man-to-man coverage? 3rd and 5, can they get open against man-to-man? And I think all these guys do a great job of that. And you have to go in the game, and look, the Rams are different with Puka, the Giants are different offense with Malik, and I think Jacksonville's becoming a different offense with Brian Thomas, certainly. And then Reed, I mean, to me, to go along with some of the other talent that Brian Gutekunst has put together in Green Bay as the general manager, that receiving core up there is dynamic, and Reed being in the slot is a hard matchup. As you mentioned, Matt, it's really difficult. So let's shift to the tight end position. You know, Nick Saban said the 2 best players that he played against in college football last year were Jaden Daniels and Brock Bowers. And Brock Bowers is on our All-Belichick team as the tight end at Georgia. He was sensational. He's been able to get open. He's a big F. He can block on the edge. He can take on different defensive backs and knock them around, but then he can get open and win the one-on-one matchups. I thought Dalton Kincaid has really electrified this Bills offense. They become a 12 team, but he's the slot receiver. They have run the ball way more effectively out of 12. They become a Western New York offense as opposed to being just an 11 team. And Kincaid's really good catching the football. They haven't lost a step by putting Kincaid on the field as the 3rd receiver as they had in the past, Bill.
Yeah. You know, he's added a lot to their offense, and those big tight ends that can block and catch, convert 3rd downs, be a big part of the short yardage, goal line, red area package, they're really, really valuable. And Bowers has already made a big impact in this league. He's a big problem. And Kincaid has added a good second year to his rookie year last season. He's a guy now you got to really game plan for and figure out how you're going to stop. Allen's got a lot of confidence in him. He's done a great job of helping to open up that offense and give him a presence there at tight end to go along with, you know, what they have outside and at the quarterback position.
Yeah, you could see it in Allen's numbers. I mean, his accuracies, his totals have come way down before. He's having one of the best years, only thrown 2 interceptions all year. They're running the football. The burden of responsibility doesn't always fall on his lap because they've got versatility. And I think a lot of that is this decision to go into this 12 having someone like Kincaid, Matt.
We'll give Joe Brady credit. You know, I think he really took a look at the offense, and they lost some pieces last year. And this is one of the players, Dalton Kincaid, that's benefiting from kind of that rebirth of 12 personnel in Buffalo, and putting that group on the field does, puts the defense in a bind. How are you going to play it? How are you going to match it? Base defense, a sub defense. So I like these two tight ends. I think it makes it really difficult to game plan. We talked about Bowers last week, how important he is and how explosive of a player, athletic of a player he can be. Dalton Kincaid's one of those sneaky guys. We're going to spend a lot of time defensively looking at Bowers, and here comes Kincaid. He's going to make a lot of plays for us offensively and kind of help the unit go.
Right, because the National Football League is pretty well balanced between 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. We've selected 2 tight ends and the 3 receivers for this team. It's really 12 people because both are used prominently, and so we didn't want to exclude one or the other. And I think we have the guys to fit that. So this is a good team, good skill players.
Yeah, we'd have to have a 12 team for Madden because we're going to run the ball a little bit, right, Matt?
I was going to say, he's going to like the tight end position for sure.
Well, at least our receivers are blocked, so
exactly.
they'll be all right with
That's
that,
right.
We got great skill guys. They're going to help us win. But let's get to what Madden loved the most. Let's get to the big boys up front. The Hogs, as he liked to call them. He certainly fell in love with Washington's offensive line. You hear the stories. That group, that was a special group.
Yeah,
now,
no question.
They had a shed that they used to hide in and before practice, and you had to be invited to go out there. But he would always talk about, the offensive line on television. And as a fan of football growing up, I loved that because there was just not a lot of attention being brought to that group.
Well, he loved the Washington Redskins Hogs. That's what they were. Jacoby, Grimm, Bostic, McKenzie, May. You can throw Don Warren in there, too. He was a tight end, but
he was
other than one
as
game,
a
he never
tackle.
caught any passes. He had like 7 for 63 against 9 for 63 against us one year. When I told the team, look, if they throw every pass to Don and Warren, that'll be good for us because that's one less that'll go to Monk, Clark, or Ricky Sanders. And he had a career day against us, but that was a great, that really kind of set the stage for John, that offensive line and the Hogs. And we have some pretty good offensive linemen here, too. It's a young group. The last 2 years, there were, let's call it 13 offensive tackles taken in the first round, depending on how you count a couple of these guys. And we've selected 7 for our team here, a center, 3 guards, and 3 tackles. And let's start with the center, Cooper Beebe, a 3rd-round pick out of Kansas State for the Cowboys. He's done a good job inside of solidifying that offensive line and really played with good strength in there, good power. Played guard at Kansas State. The Cowboys moved him inside. It was a good move. He hasn't had any snap problems. It's really been a good player for him.
Yeah, no, and look, the Cowboys have got, even though they haven't had the year they expected running the football, but they have 2 young linemen that they can build a team around. And one thing we do know, the center position, everybody says you can make a center. If you have a really good center, especially with these big tackles that are playing in the league, you got a chance to run the football.
We're looking for smart, tough guys in the middle to be able to keep the depth of the pocket. Now, statistically, there might be some pressures and sacks coming through the middle of Dallas's offensive line, but there's other components that go into effect there. I think this guy has really, he's just matured. He's grown. You can see his development. He's just going to continue to get better, and I think that's where we got to start.
Yeah, he's a good player for him in there. And then at the guard, the right guard is Mock. He was 2nd-round pick for Tampa last year. He started 2 straight years here, and he's been a solid player inside. On the left guard, we're going to go with Matt Bergeron, who is the starting left guard for Atlanta. Skoronski also plays that position for Tennessee. Skoronski was a tackle at Northwestern, moved him inside. Let's make him the swing guard. He can play either side. So all 3 of those guys are good young players. Bergeron in particular is tough. But Mock is a small school guy that has made a good transition into the NFL, and I like Skoronski. He probably has the ability to play right tackle if they need him over there too. So 3 good young players.
Yeah, smart, tough, and dependable, and they stay on the field. That's the most important thing. You need them on the field. These guys are durable, Matt, and they bring that sense of toughness to your team, which helps your run game.
Bergeron, the thing that's great about him is he finishes a lot of blocks. I think those guys inside, when they're clearing the pocket, giving those lanes for the quarterback to step up or open up so they can see the receivers downfield, we're seeing that out of some of these young guys. Sometimes it takes these young offensive linemen a little bit of time to realize that, but cleaning the pocket out, that is what you got to have, and these guys, they're doing it, and it's exciting to see that.
Yeah, certainly gives the quarterback a chance to step up and throw over the middle, and they all have to be able to do that. And then the tackle position, the right tackle, this Roger Rosengarten's done a really good job for the Ravens. He kind of alternated early in the year, the first couple of weeks. Then he's kind of taken over that right tackle spot. He was kind of the 2nd tackle at Washington, but he's emerged as a really good right tackle. Obviously, he's helped the Ravens tremendously in the running game, and he's been solid in pass protection. It's definitely been good enough, and to take over that spot on that offensive line for the Ravens is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they run block really well, too. I thought Rosengarten has gotten better with every single game, and you can see why now he's the right tackle permanently, because his improvement, even though there's been some changes in terms of coaches, unfortunately, with the death of their offensive line coach and having to bring George Warhop in to replace him, he's improved and he's really played well. I think it's been a key to Baltimore's offense that this line has gelled together.
Yeah, the game isn't too big for him, that's for sure. And then a left tackle, we really got a couple guys there, J.C. Latham and Tyler Guyton. Guyton can do it all at left tackle. I think he's a prototype left tackle for Dallas. He's missed a couple games. I think he's got to answer the durability question. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that, but he can run block, he can pass block. He's long, he's physical, he's very athletic. He could be one of the great left tackles in the league. And Latham, who really seems like a little more of a right tackle than a left tackle, but Tennessee's using him on the left side. He's over there with Skoronski. He can definitely handle it over there, and so he could probably swing to right if we need him over there on the right side. But Latham's a good young guy, probably one of the most physical players coming out in the draft last year, and carries that physical play into the offensive line. With Coach Callahan, both Bill, especially Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach. I mean, he loves those big physical tackles.
A lot of great players on the offensive roster here, but let's turn the page and let's get to the defensive guys. Coming up next, we're going to talk about these young rookie and second-year defensive players for the midseason All-Belichick team.
Jones is back. He pumps. He's sacked, and it is the second sack today for Jalen Carter.
Prescott throwing left. It is up for grabs and picked off. Side breaks with the interception. BB's got it.
Steps up. He's hit. He's sacked. Jared Verse takes down Geno Smith. Blitzer coming on a throw down the middle. Diving interception by Gonzalez.
Impact player.
Time to dive into the defensive rookies and second-year players. This is going to be fun. A lot of great players here that we talked about. A lot of different guys that have really developed from last year to this year, and then the young guys coming in the league that are rookies now. But we're going to start with the front. We're going to start up front with the edge players. Talk about defensive ends, outside linebacker, how those guys impact the defensive unit.
Yeah, similar to what we talked about on the midseason team. There's a lot of depth at this outside linebacker defensive end position. A lot of good edge players. A lot of them were drafted high, and they're showing up here now.
Defensive end specifically, kind of, we have outside linebackers up here, but defensive end, we talked about Will Anderson last week. Dynamic player in the second season, really, leads the charge for Houston, can disrupt the passing game, can play in the run game. But we got some young guys here too. Leatu Letu, guy out of I practiced that for a while. Out of Indianapolis, who I think is big, long player, can set the edge, kind of coming into his own here as the season has progressed. And Keon White, a guy we know really well who, has sneaky production. This guy forces fumbles. He has TFLs. He gets after the quarterback. Yeah. The one thing about these edge players, they're getting off the ball. They get off the ball really fast. We talk about pass rush. We talk about the timing of the offensive play. A lot of, if you can get to the quarterback in 2.75 seconds, you're really humming. All of these guys, they get they get to the quarterback under 3 seconds, put the pressure on the quarterback as that ball's coming out quick. But also the outside linebacker position. And the guy I really like, I think the Rams did a great job of bringing in some young players, and Verse is one of those guys. He can play outside linebacker. He can come off the edge. He's a good piece of the defense. I like these edge players.
Yeah, Rams front seven is really impressive with their young players. But we talk about the edge players. We're talking about physicality, Bill.
Yes,
it's one thing you can't be. We don't want anybody running up the field. The worst place to be in football is past the quarterback. And so none of these guys run up the field. They can transfer speed to power, which is something we really value on the All-Belichick team. We've got to be able to set the edge and break the running back. I think Keon White does a great job of that. I think when you look at Verse, he can handle that, and Will Anderson's been very good.
Setting the edge and being physical in the running game and keeping the running game from getting to the perimeter is very, very important. These guys all do a great job of it. Verse had a lot of production at Florida State, and that's transferred over a lot too. Everybody's worried about the injury. So the guys that are getting hurt now, the ones he hits.
Yeah.
And, White's very, very physical. And of course, Will Anderson, we talked about him. He's a great conversation. So this is really a good group. There's some other guys like Nolan Smith for Eagles that has showed up on the edge as some situational rushers, and he's a great player in pursuit and also in the kicking game. There are a number of other edge guys come up here as well that we've talked about, but these four are pretty good.
And the Rams, they've done a really good job. Another guy that we talked about too, Byron Young, for them, a good outside linebacker. But these four guys, we talked about it, speed to power type players. Verse, this guy went to Albany, University of Albany, and then transferred to Florida State. We played Albany when I was in college. I'm glad this guy wasn't there because he would have, I would have had to tap out for that. But you can see he's really transferred into the NFL, has become a very productive player for them. But some of these guys also have versatility if we got to move them down inside to create the fronts and move the look for the offense.
Yeah, a lot too, and Keon White for sure can move down in there, rush from a 3 technique, and play the diamond or bear front the teams are playing, and so there's some real versatility here as well as just great solid production, and these guys are just going to get better. They're hard to block. There's already getting some double teams, some chips from the tight ends, some game planning to handle these guys, and so especially Anderson, obviously. But this is a good group.
When you can reduce them down, that length that they have and they play with, it's hard to throw. The quarterback has a hard time throwing the ball over. Plus, those guards have a really hard time reacting to the quickness that these guys have. It really becomes a problem inside for them to go from a power guy to change to a speed guy.
Great for game planning, great to be able to move the fronts in and out and keep the offensive line. Look, keep them on the sideline going, is this 4 down, 5 down? We don't know what it is based on who's in the game. That's fun for us defensively. And, Coach, like we mentioned, we're a little bit heavy here with the edge players because we're going to need an outside linebacker if we have to play base defense, and then we can go to the 4 down looks in sub so that we can match up against the 11 personnel and 12 personnels that we're seeing from the offense.
Yeah, we need the same 12 players on defense that we needed on offense to use the different personnel groups. So, but this is a good group. They have versatility, they have production, they have power, like these guys.
Yeah, these guys are great, but they're going to be complemented by some really good players inside. And we're going to talk about the defensive tackles, another group that has really progressed. We got some guys that have been in the league a year, second year now, and then some young guys that are really making a push to be dynamic. Across the board here, we got Jalen Carter. This guy is a force to be reckoned with. But we're going to be able to roll some other guys in there: Cansey, Fisk, Turner. Again, here comes the Rams' young defensive line showing up. But these guys are producing right now. They're disruptive. They've been on the field. They're really the trending upward in the season as we go. We get to the midpoint. I'm excited to see what these guys do going forward, Mike.
Yeah, Fisk has been really impressive as a rookie. He's got great ability to get on the edge of the guards, and he's got that ability to power and get into the paint and push that pocket back. Same with Turner. I think Cansey was healthy, is finally back to being healthy. He's got that kind of sap-like quickness to play inside, and I think Carter, really surprising he dropped as far as he did in the draft because it's rare. You used to say it all the time. It's hard to find 3 techniques. It's really hard to find them, and Carter is a legitimate big-time 3 technique.
Carter's having a great year. That's a good defensive line, but he's the centerpiece. This is a very strong group. We talked about some other guys up there, too. This is overall, there's a lot of depth at the defensive line position with these young players, and again, they keep getting better. Some of these guys didn't do too much the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then you see them coming on and really starting to play well and gain some production and some confidence and just a little bit better understanding and feel for the game. So an exciting group to watch, and a group that seems like they're getting a lot better.
Forced fumbles, getting after the quarterback, sacks, pressures, TFLs, all the things that create the negative plays up front. These guys are doing it right now, and they're showing it consistently week in, week out. We know, when you see great players, a lot of times as coaches, as front office members, we see a lot of things in practice that don't even make it to the game, where you step back and you're like, this is unbelievable. This guy is amazing. Jalen Carter's one of those guys. Last year, there was a practice. He went out, we were in pads, and he just destroyed practice. It was the most amazing thing I've seen from a young defensive tackle. So you think, you like to see that stuff. That's kind of what you think going forward. Hey, this is really going to transfer to Sundays. This is a fun group inside. Disruptive. We can do some things now with those edge players that we just talked about, moving these guys around, create some different rush packages. All these guys can play the run game, which we know we've got to stop the run. We've got to play strong. Can't get knocked out of there on the double teams. this would be a front now that the offensive line, they're going to be up all night, trying to figure out how they're going to handle them. Yeah,
no question about it. And that's the key to the game, right? You want to stop the quarterbacks. And the most important thing, I think, with this front, they can all chase down the quarterback. I mean, we've seen Kansas chase down Mahomes, make a tackle on him in space. I mean, you've got to be able to run down a quarterback. You can't be running 5-2, play defensive tackle, because the second play in the offense when the quarterback breaks the pocket is always the play that kills you.
Yeah, and, the guys that play behind this line, the linebackers, are a pretty good group, too. All right, let's start with Henry To'o.
There you go.
He's doing the same thing that he's always done. This guy is super productive. He did it at Vanderbilt, then he did it at Alabama, now he's doing it for the Texans. He just has a nose for the ball. He finds the ball. He has tremendous production. He's on the field most all the time, makes a lot of tackles, just is all over the place. He's playing behind a good defensive line, but he's very instinctive and very productive.
Yeah, and he's almost like he's on a punt return. If he doesn't get blocked, he's going to make the tackle. I mean, you got to get a body on him. He's really able to find the football. He's got great instincts to the ball, and the way the scheme's set up, he doesn't have to take on anybody, Matt.
Yeah, instincts, right? If you're an inside linebacker, run and tackle, and that's what this guy does. He's been very productive. He can find the ball. He can decipher the schemes. He can play in the passing game. He's got enough speed out on the field. Got to cover space. This is a good young player. He's been productive.
Yeah, and another productive guy, Jack Campbell, really plays on early downs for Detroit. Doesn't play in sub, but he was a very instinctive player at Iowa, and that's carried over into his play here with the Lions. Playing behind a good front, McNeil and those guys up there, but Campbell can run. He's long. He's got good length. Makes him a factor in the passing game. Hard to get the ball over him. Quarterbacks have trouble. He's a decent blitzer. I kind of like the way Campbell plays. He can run the defense. He's got some maturity, instincts, leadership, good communication skills. So these two guys are both really good linebackers. Again, I don't think the depth at the linebacker position overall in the league is quite as good as what we've talked about on the front.
Yeah, but Campbell gives us a bigger size linebacker, something we wanted on the defense, somebody who could play downhill, and he can do that. He's physical, and like you said, he is so instinctive, and he's difficult when he gets matched up on a running back, Matt, where he's got his size, can take advantage of a small runner.
Yeah, this is a downhill guy. This would be like our type of guy that we would know would be able to go into the line of scrimmage and create some havoc and get some TFLs and stop the run. We talked about a couple other guys. We got Cooper at Green Bay, Williams at Buffalo, some good young players, but we really went with two guys. And I think, Coach, to the point we always talk about, finding inside linebackers now, it's so critical to building your roster and building your team. And a lot of these guys will play on special teams. They'll find value overall on your roster. But two here that, I think can run the defense, control the front, and communicate with the back end.
Yeah, a really important position. Sometimes you hear that a linebacker got overdrafted. They're so hard to find, and when you can get a good one like Hightower, you just got to take them. They're just so hard to find.
Or move up and take them if you have to. Just go get them.
Do whatever you want, because there just aren't very many of those guys there, and the instincts they're just so hard to coach. The kids that have them are so valuable. So now we'll move to the defensive backs, Michael, and there's a pretty good group back there.
It really is. A lot of good young defensive backs. We wanted versatility in this group. We wanted guys who had length on the outside, who had size. Tackling's important for us on the All-Belichick team. We got to come up and tackle. I really felt like Joey Porter and Christian Gonzalez. Now, Gonzalez, I would not call him the best tackler, but he will tackle. Porter can really come up and be physical.
Yep.
Devin Witherspoon, he's been just a physical corner from his time at Illinois to now at Seattle. He can play inside and outside. You got to have a corner on the inside, Coach. You know as well as I do that will tackle, because of all the run games. And if your star, which is what we call them, doesn't tackle very well, they're going to run you out of it.
Yeah, they will. And speed's important in there too. If you don't have a player that can run with those over routes from the slot in man coverage, you give up some big plays there. But no, I think this is a good group. And as you said, turning the ball over is important. The ball skills from Porter, Gonzalez, Witherspoon. You make a bad throw, those guys will make you pay. And turnovers are what wins games. And those are really important plays in the game. These guys can all make them.
Yeah, we don't want guys that can't catch, Matt, right? I mean, we want guys that can make plays on the ball when the ball's in the air, because a dropped interception can cost you a game.
Yeah, we got to go get the ball. Gonzalez, he's one of the best, defensive backs at playing the deep ball, playing the long ball. He puts himself in great position. Porter, we mentioned how tough he is. We can put him over on the left side for that strong side offensive right run game plan. And then Witherspoon, not only does he got to tackle, but you want to send this guy a little bit. You want to be able to blitz off the edge and make that guy a threat, and the protection have to account for him. And these guys can all also match up. You know, we can get into different modes coverage-wise. We can play normal left, right, and star. We can put Porter on the left. We can put Gonzalez on the right. Let Witherspoon go inside, or we can match them up. You know, put one of them on their best guy, give help to somebody else. These guys are all smart. They can make plays downfield. I like the group. It's fun. It'll be a good game plan group to have.
Yeah, and I think what you said was so important. 3 levels of the defense: the behind the sack the quarterback, the second level, which is inside the box, and then the third level, the deep third. And we picked 2 safeties that can play on all 3 levels of the defense, which is important. The day of the old strong safety in the NFL doesn't exist anymore. If you can only play in the box, you're standing next to you and I, right? If you can only play in the deep third, that becomes a problem because you're going to have to get involved in the run game. So what we decided, we went with Brian Branch, a second-year player from Detroit, played at Alabama, very instinctive. I thought he's done a really good job for them. He's given them that instinct at the position. And Javon Bullard's been a huge part of Green Bay's ability to turn the ball over and solidify that inside of their defense. And we considered Evan Williams from there, too. He's been really good as a player. But I think these 2 players can play on the third level, and they're not afraid to blitz. And what they can do is open field tackle, which keeps those long runs from happening.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a position where there's a lot of depth. We talked about 7 or 8 players at safety, and it's kind of hard to narrow this down, although these are 2 outstanding players. It wasn't hard to narrow down Branch. But I'd say the next group of players are pretty closely packed in there. So we went with Bullard, but there's certainly some other guys that are really good young safeties in the league that are going to show up here and throughout the later second half of the season. We'll see how it all plays out.
Bullard's a movement piece. We can kind of put him in some different positions. That's what's fun about that guy. When you try to game plan, we can put him maybe if we have to out in the slot, maybe kind of give some different looks in the coverage disguises. He's a guy that can do those things. And then Branch, this guy, we talked about him before. He's just disruptive all over the place, turning the ball over, has great energy. He's a tough guy. You want those safeties now. You want them to be tough. They got to come in the box. You know, sometimes they got to go head to head with the big boys up front. And, he's a guy that does it. And I think it just builds the respect of everyone around him.
Yeah, you can tell he's got a lot of leadership on that defense, and good decision maker, good communicator, good in the deep part of the field. It's picked off passes, and good up in the box, good open field tackler, tough. There's a lot to like about Branch.
Yeah, you got to have open field tackling. I mean, one missed tackle turns a 5-yard gain into a 25-yard gain. And I think the instincts and the range of these 2 players is really important. If your safeties can't have range, your defense looks slow.
You know, John Madden would always talk about, defensive guys, and a lot of times it was about the guys up front. And I remember him showing Dave Butts' helmet one time, and it was all, spidered across the top of it. But I think we got a tough defensive group here. I think we got a group that we can certainly game plan with from the front end to the second level linebackers, the secondary. This would be a fun group to go out there and play with. Well, we've talked offense, we've talked defense. Time to get to the third phase here, special teams. We're going to talk about that coming up here, Mike.
Yeah, no question. A lot of good young kickers, Bill, in the National Football League, making long 50-yard kicks under pressure.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost automatic, right? This new kickoff return rule, though, has really screwed us up with the kickoff returners. It's hard to evaluate these guys. We'll talk more about that in the next segment.
We're going to break down the special teams, rookies, and second-year players here. We know the third phase is important. We got to talk about these guys, especially the specialists. We got some good young players to discuss.
Yeah, I think the kickers is one of the toughest positions we talked about in this entire team. There are so many players that are good. They've been consistent. Michael, what do you think?
Well, I think the kickers, have been amazing in the sense of how they've been able to handle the pressure. But some of the guys like Chad Ryland, who, struggled as a rookie, and now he's
couldn't make an extra point.
Now he's been sensational. You have to be really patient when you draft these kickers. You really do, because it takes them some time to get going. But I think, Matt, if you don't have a kicker who can make a 50-yarder on a consistent basis, you're giving away points.
We're talking about points. We mentioned it last week, Aubrey at Dallas. This guy is unbelievable. I mean, they play on a shorter field when he's on that team.
Of course, we got to go with Aubrey. I mean, I get that, but there are so many other guys that are having good years.
Young kickers too, Bill. I mean, like, take Chad Ryland last year. You know, you drafted him. He struggled to make extra points, struggled to make field goals, and now he almost makes our team. He's straight down the middle. And, Matt, if you don't have a guy that can make a 50-yard kick, well, unless you have Nick Folk, who's made 57 of them in a row, you really cheat yourself out of points.
When you got some of these guys that are just hitting these 60-yard field goals, it's amazing. Aubrey, certainly down at Dallas, you're playing on half a field. That's why we took him last week. We'll take him again this week.
Yeah, Ryland's got the game-winning kicks. Groupie's been really good for New Orleans. Reichard, rookie going into Minnesota, has done a good job, just like we saw him do at Alabama. That's transferred over pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. They've been, you know, of course, in college, the stadiums are big, the pressure's on them, they're used to that, but it's really a disadvantage. You've got to have that guy that can nail those kicks, or else, you know, the old days where you weren't even thinking about trying a 50-yarder, now you got to try them.
Yeah, it changes how you play defense. It changes what it looks like once you cross the 50. I think, look, we've seen the offenses get in situations now where they just get a little bit more, even though it's not a first down on third down, get a little bit more, and now you got points on the board because these guys are hitting them from long range.
Yeah, and then the punter, Mike, we talked about whether we should even put a punter on the team because everybody goes for it on fourth down now. But I guess, we're gonna.
ESPN says to go for it, so you have to go for it. No, it's never come back saying don't go for it. We know every situation is go, right? So
and 2 points too. Take 2 points every time you can.
Yeah, every chance you get. But
the punters, what do you think?
I mean, look, I still think field position matters. I think, to me, it's more important now than ever because, look, let's be clear, this new kickoff rule, and we can get into whether it's good or not, but what's happened is we've taken away a returner. I mean, Devin Hester would not be in the Hall of Fame if he played under these rules. There's no way. Nobody would punt. Nobody would kick to him.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've taken that element out of the game, and so now all we have left is the punt returner. If you don't have a punter who can control the ball, doesn't punt it down the middle of the field with no hang time and lets him return it, again, that hurts your football team. We've seen games won this year based on punt returns just strictly in field position.
And I feel like a lot of those punt returns came because the ball went like this instead of like that.
Right.
Hang time, get it up in the air.
Yeah.
A little bit shorter, a little bit higher, cuts down the return yardage.
Yeah, no question. And you know, you got to be able to give those gunners a chance to make a play, and then you got a chance to get fumbles and maybe recover the ball. But I think, to me, the other thing that having a great punt coverage team, like in the old days, we used to want to have a great kickoff coverage team, it gives your team toughness.
Sure it does.
You know, you got to have some toughness on your. Where are you going to get it for that special teams? And if it's all just clean exchanges, you lose an element of toughness, Matt.
Got to cover kicks. Got to cover kicks. And one of the biggest part of the game that we're seeing right now is the plus 50 punt. You know, get those guys, get a good kick, pin them down inside the 10-yard line, play good defense, get the ball back, you're back in the range for points. It all goes hand in hand. Got a couple of good young punters here that we took a look at, and a couple guys that have to kick in some weather too. Cincinnati, Chicago. It's real important as the season goes on here, these guys can handle the elements.
Yeah, Reichau's been really good for Cincinnati. You know, when they drafted Taylor out of Iowa, who was the best college punter I've ever seen since Shane Leckler came out. But he's been dynamic. Both these guys, Bill, are really good.
Yeah, Reichau's got that hang time. He puts that ball up in the air. He kicks it a long way. He's averaging over 45 yards net. So
yeah.
that used to be the gross numbers now. But the hang time and a little bit of direction and all really makes such a big difference. But we've seen teams lose games on 96-yard punt returns, 79-yard punt returns, 70-yard punt returns. You got to cover them, but kicks are hard to cover when there's no hang time and they're right down the middle.
Yeah, where the returner can go either direction, right? I know the return's set up in one way or the other, but boy, when they see a crack and all of a sudden they go through it, and the punter's not making the tackle, so you got to have a kicker that can kick somewhat directionally, Matt.
Yeah, and Taylor at Chicago, I think this is what they've done as a team. Coach Eberflus, you know, played well in all three phases. They've got a young quarterback. They got to play good defense. They've got to play good on special teams, win the field position battle, and you know the punter position. It's got to start with him.
And let's not forget the snapper too. I know you like the good hiker. I mean, you and I both hiked in college. I mean, so you got to give great respect to the long snapper here. I think, to me, that's really important. The only time you notice when he screws it up, Bill, is when it's a bad snap. The poor guy, you know, and Chris Stahl has done very good for Seattle. He's been outstanding. And everybody thinks it's easy to replace your long snapper. Not so easy. I mean, we were fortunate to have Joe up in New England because he was as good as anybody. But to me, it's a hard position to find to get the right guy.
You know there are going to be some wet footballs in the game in Seattle, so that's really important. But Reichau, obviously Aubrey, Stoll, 3 good young specialists, and there's some other guys in the wings too.
Yeah.
I just want to give a kind of a shout out in terms of coverage to a couple of guys. Tyler Owens from Washington, excellent cover player. He's really done a good job for the Commanders. He's really helped their kicking game. And then this Winston Reed from Cleveland has been impressive too. Fast, tough, makes a lot of plays. We're not going to go with a full special teams unit, but Reed and Owens are 2 guys I think really deserve some mention in terms of what they've been able to do in the coverage game so far this year. We'll see how it plays out at the end.
You always said, Coach, you want to be good on special teams, you got to have great specialists. And we've got some great specialists, but, we just add on to that because we like to cover some of these guys, the core players, Owens, Reed. These guys make plays. They make tackles. And that's going to help us with the young group out there trying to make plays and win field positions.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel really good about those positions. But, Mike, I'm going to kick it to you on the kickoff returner. Who's our kickoff returner? What are we going to do about this?
Well, we don't have one. We can't evaluate it. I don't know how you can evaluate one and say this guy's going to come in and play really well because we haven't been able to see. We've lost the dynamic element of the game. Because if you're good and we would pick a good one, they're not going to kick it to us. So if you're bad, they can't wait to kick it to you. So I think, to me, this is something that we've lost. Like I said earlier, the great returners, the Mel Grays, the Devin Hesters, the guys that made a huge difference in this game in terms of being on these walls here at NFL Films and being in the Hall of Fame, they wouldn't be as dynamic today. I mean, Gale Sayers, where would Gale Sayers be if it wasn't for the kickoff return game? I mean, we're losing an element of that because these kickers are so good. We wouldn't kick the ball to Gale Sayers no matter what we would do.
Not with today's rules.
Not today's rules. He would never catch a punt. He'd have to do it all on punt, and you kick it out of bounds anyway. So, to me, I think that's what makes it so hard to evaluate a kickoff returner. A punt returner, Cooper DeJean has done a really good job. We had him as an alternative guy on our defensive team at a corner. He's played really well. He's smart. He's a classic Iowa player. Smart, instinctive, and tough. He fits the All-Belichick, all-Madden mode in terms of being everything you want, and he's a 4-down player, Matt.
And we want him to take care of the ball, and certainly that's the most important thing, and he'll do that. And I love it when we get an extra player on defense that can go in there and play a little bit of, whether it's star or have to bump outside or maybe even safety. He's going to make the team as a returner. We're going to bring him right into that defensive meeting and get him caught up there too. But a guy, I think, dependable guy, catch the ball. He's, averaging over 10 yards a return. That's a first down.
That's first down.
It's a first down. We talk about it all the time. Just give me a first down that moves the field position, moves the chains, and we can get the ball to the offense.
Yeah, ball handling is so important. And it's not just the return yardage, it's the inside the 10. He's sometimes even around the 5-yard line, ball handling, catching it in bad weather, which we know there's going to be plenty of that in Philadelphia. And throughout the whole Northeast, right? And they play the Giants and everybody else, outdoor stadiums. So that's an outdoor division. So you got to be able to handle the ball, and he's very good at that. As you said, he's got defensive value. We'll just have to find somebody to put back there to handle those kickoffs. That'd be a receiver or one of our DBs.
Yeah, because they're just not going to kick it to him. I mean, that's just a fact. That's what we're just going to. You have to accept it, and hopefully we'll take a look at it this offseason. Yeah,
Cooper DeJean, smart, tough guy, is going to make good decisions back there. That's what we want on special teams. We want the smartness. We want the toughness out there. But we're going to turn the page here in the next segment, Coach. The show is called Coach. So we're going to talk about some midseason coaches, some coordinators, head coaches, front office personnel, and maybe reveal some leaders on this team that could be captains for us. Welcome back to Coach. It's the midpoint of the year, but we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to actually talk about head coaches, coordinators, and front offices that we think have done a good job so far, going back to the spring and to where they are now. We're going to start with the head coaching candidates. We've talked about a couple here, narrowed it down to 2.
Yeah, there's really a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys have had good years, done a great job with their teams.
Yeah, I mean, you take Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. I mean, everybody thought that he would not have a winning season this year, and he's come out of the blocks with 2 different quarterbacks and has done a really good job. I think, John Harbaugh changed his whole offensive line. Jim Harbaugh out at the Los Angeles Chargers takes over a team that was not very good. But I think when you look at this, Dan Quinn has done an amazing job in Washington in terms of resurrecting that franchise.
Absolutely. They've done a great job there. And 2 other guys have kept it going, Dan Campbell and Andy Reid. They've really kept their teams and their program executing and rolling at a very high level. We'll see how it plays in the second half of the year.
Yeah, it's always interesting, Matt, that coaches that have good teams never get enough credit for coaching good teams, right? Andy Reid, Dan Campbell. I mean, it's more, you would know this as well as anybody. I mean, how hard it is to keep your players' focus and attention on the task at hand when everybody's telling them how good they are.
Yeah, and it hasn't been a smooth ride for them. I mean, Detroit lost their key guy in Hutchinson, and obviously Andy's had the receiver situation, but they keep bringing guys in. They bring Hopkins in. They've kind of patched it together. Pacheco's been out. Maybe they'll get him back, but you know what? So far, no blemishes on the record. They played some tough games, but found a way to win them all.
Yeah, well, we narrowed it down to two. We're going to have a head coach offensive background, a head coach defensive background, and we went with Andy Reid and Dan Quinn, two guys that have done a great job with their teams and really helped them kind of get to where they want to go right now. They're in great position going forward. We'll see how the team, progresses. But really, Andy, who's done a great job kind of handling all the success that they've had and still finding a way to win with, the adversity that they've faced. And then Dan Quinn. New head coach at Washington, really young team, a lot of changes there. He's really taken a young quarterback, kind of married that all together, and they've done a great job.
Yeah, established a culture in 2013 in Kansas City. Dan Quinn established it in 2024. I mean, those are really important things when you're building your program.
Yeah, and we know it takes a lot more than a head coach. I know that better than anybody. And I was very fortunate to always have one. Matt, great defensive coordinator. Mike, great with personnel and trades and decision-making in front office. Andy and Dan have them, too. Cliff Kingsbury, offensive coordinator, has done a tremendous job with Jaden Daniels, the offense. They've scored in 34 of the 36 quarters. They don't turn the ball over. They score a lot of points. Cliff's done a great job with that offense in Washington. And you can't say enough about Spags and the defense of Kansas City. They've won close games. They've gotten stops in the fourth quarter when they've had to. Great defensive coordinator, great offensive coordinator with two good head coaches. And don't forget about special teams.
Yeah, that's true.
Dave Phipp, Detroit, they've had a tremendous year. That's recipe for success.
Yeah, those are the guys that we want. Obviously, Cliff's great, and Spags has done a great job. But there are some other names that we talked about and discussed. Ben Johnson, certainly at Detroit's done a great job with that offense. Arthur Smith at Pittsburgh, I think he's really stepped into defensively. Nick Rollis at Arizona, statistically maybe not at the top of the league, but I think they've done a phenomenal job. Vance Joseph, Brian Flores. We talked about some great names there.
And they're winning. I mean, that's the most important thing. They're helping their teams win. And I think when you look at what these coordinators, I mean, Cliff being able to develop the young quarterback and win.
Yes.
And keep the turnovers down. That's really remarkable. And Spags being able to keep his level of defense up to the high standard that they set last year is really remarkable. But I think the other thing that helps a lot of these guys is go back into the design of the teams, right? I think all these coaches have great ability to coach the players, but who designed the team and executed the design? To me, there's always two things that go in place: the production, which is the coaching element, the design, which is the front office element. And I think certainly in Washington, their design has been very good, adding a ton of new players. Green Bay, for example, Brian Gutekunst, the general manager there, has done a remarkable job of really adding a ton of talent to his team.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you look at what they've done in free agency. They brought in two really key guys, McKinney on defense and Jacobs on offense. Green Bay doesn't sign a lot of free agents, but they brought in two. Those guys have really helped them.
Yeah, and another team I think we should talk about on this is the Denver Broncos and the job that Sean Payton has done to really kind of handle, I would say, a difficult situation for them cap-wise.
Difficult. They lost 30% of their cap to dead money. Russell Wilson was over 21% of it. So you're playing with 70% of a team that the other teams are playing with, and they've been very competitive, and Sean's done a great job of rebuilding that program.
And playing with a rookie quarterback, too.
Well, of course.
And then you got all these other cap limitations, and the Vance has done a wonder. Vance Joseph's done a great job defensively. So, yeah, I mean, Sean, he's got full control of the organization, and you could see it take shape in his mindset.
You look at the offensive coordinators in the AFC, Monken at Baltimore and Brady at Buffalo. Those are two of the top offenses in the American Football Conference. Those two guys have done a great job, and they've been very consistent, and they don't make many mistakes. They score a lot of points. They're going to be very hard to stop in the second half of the season.
It's fun to watch the coordinators here as the season has developed, and these guys that have just created with what they've had. There's changes every year in the NFL. We talk about it. That's the one consistent is change. And to see these guys develop, whether it's Spags at Kansas City, work with what he has, certainly Joe Brady kind of reinvent Buffalo, Vance Joseph continually improve that defense in Denver, along with the leadership and the culture of the head coaches that we talked about, the front office. It's cool to see at the midpoint of the season how all this fits together, and it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah, you talk about Green Bay. One of the best moves they made was acquiring Willis when Love got hurt.
Yeah, no, really, I thought that was outstanding, and I questioned it at the time. I'm like, Willis couldn't complete a pass for Tennessee, but give Matt LaFleur and the offensive staff credit. They designed a run game around the kid, put him in great position, and they have some really good. This is a really good young team. They're not quite to Detroit's level, but boy, they're really good. And Brian Gutekunst has done a really good job of drafting the right players. Everybody says you got to draft a receiver in the top 5. He's got a boatload of them and hasn't spent a first-round pick on them.
That's right. Yep, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and then we've talked about so many people. Again, Arthur Smith, they might not be leading the league in offensive production at Pittsburgh, but they're not turning the ball over. They're winning games, and he's had 2 quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just throwing Pat Mahomes out there every time. Some of these teams have really done a great job with their quarterback management, managing other injury situations, the cap situation in Denver. There's a lot of good coaching and organizational moves that we've seen through this year.
Yeah, hard to argue again. Andy Reid, one of the best. Dan Quinn, happy for him at Washington. Midpoint of the year, it's great to see the coaches, the front offices recognized for what they've done. Like we said, there'll be changes from here on out. Teams will rise and teams will slide a little bit. But these organizations, these coaches, I really think they've done a great job.
Yeah.
So let's review the bidding. Head coach, Andy Reid, Dan Quinn.
Yep.
Offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury. Defensive coordinator, Spags.
Yep.
Special teams, Dave Phipp. Organization, Brian Gutekunst, Green Bay. Sean Payton, Denver.
Yep. And Adam Peters.
Adam Peters, Washington Commanders. I got that right, Commanders.
Well, I think all those teams done a great job going back to the spring. Coaching staff changes. We know that happens every single year. But going back to our midseason All-Belichick team and really going back to, John Madden and what we put this team together as, we got to have some captains. Picked a couple of them here, 1 offense, 1 defense.
And, from the same team, I don't know how you can argue with what C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson have done for the Houston Texans, the leadership that they've brought, as well as the outstanding level of play. These guys are young. They're very good players. They're what you want as people. They're what you want as leaders. They're my 2 guys.
Yeah,
I think Matt would be proud of them.
And for young players, they both were picked one after another. And they've gone in and changed the whole tenor of the Houston Texans organization. And it's changed their culture along with D'Amico Ryans coaching them. So it's really impressive. That was a home run draft for sure, Matt.
Yeah, I can see the highlights of these 2, and in my head I can hear John Madden's voice, and he's given a boom or a pow or, one of those adjectives that he would use with both of these guys watching the highlights. 2 great young players. We can really see how they've matured in their second year. Great picks. It's a great team. It's a lot of fun. This was really cool for the last couple of shows, being able to kind of talk about these players.
It has been. It's been great to honor Coach Madden and his inspiration in this team. And we look forward to seeing how this is going to play out and picking the All-Belichick team at the end of the season, along with the coaches and front office.
That's a wrap on our midseason second and first-year players on the All-Belichick team. Please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back next week to review Week 11 in the NFL.